Lifeboat Live, we have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck. A few days, but I can't remember the last time I spent a few days away from the boat. I've been putting a new floor in here in the homestead, so it's been it's just been day after day of slaving away here, and I was doing it single-handedly for the most part. Jack came down and helped for a few hours one night, helped me move a little bit of furniture, but for the most part, it's just been me and the floor. And the problem is the idiot that did this floor the last time, that would be me, was on drugs when he did it. And boy, it was really something when I started taking this thing apart and realizing just how unbelievably bad I did the last time around. And the job that I'm paying for it. And to make a long story short, I'm paying for the job that I did the previous time around. But it's fantastic to be back here on the lifeboat. You know, we say this so often, but this is therapy. It really is. And if you don't think it is, you just got to take a couple of days off to realize that you start feeling just not quite right. You know, when you start spending time away from the family, it just you sort of get out of sorts. This is very much therapy for myself and for Mark. So I'm glad to be back, and big thanks to Mark for taking care of business. And it's funny. Hold on one second. Mortimer Bustos. Mortimer, always good to see you. Glad that you're here, my brother. People, yesterday was 2/22/22, right? So at 2:22 yesterday, it was 2:22 at 2:22/22, which will, of course, only happen once in our lifetime. And oddly enough, pretty close to that exact time, we hit 2,200 people here on the lifeboat. So it was sort of serendipity that, but the growth here has been great. And we want to give a shout out to all of the new people who have recently joined the crew. It's always great when the crew gets bigger. You know, the mission here at the lifeboat is, we've said this a lot. It's not about seeing how big an audience we can build, but it's about, trying to get people to really open up and talk about what's going on in their lives, especially, as it pertains to trying to get sober and live a sober life. And the more people that are here doing that, the better the mission is, right? That is the mission, and to reach as many people as possible with what we do on the lifeboat. So again, while we're not trying to wave a banner and go, hey, check it out, we're up to 2,200. It is exciting when we reach more people with the message of the fact that, you know what, you can live a damn good life without drugs and alcohol. In fact, it's just a better existence. I mean, there's no two ways about it. Today I got you get all of the memes and the posts that you see, people put up when you've got the number of people that, we've got a lot of people between here and all of the other platforms. There are just thousands and thousands of people that in one way or another have something to do with the lifeboat. And we get all kinds of memes, and one of them hit me. And if I was more on the ball, I would have sent it to Mark and he would have posted it up here. But it was a teacher had written on a board. You people may have seen this, but it was the times tables. Remember when you used to have to do those as kids? Well, maybe they don't do that anymore. But when us old guys and gals, when we were kids, used to drill through that, rote learning, where you just, 1 times 9 is, 2 times 9 is, 3 times 9 is, and you would just go through the entire thing. Well, the teacher went and wrote all of the 9s on the board, and she wrote 1 times 9 is 1, 2 times 9 is 18, 3 times 9 is 27. And she went all the way down. And of course, the first one was wrong. And she just continued to write, and the class, started to laugh as she was going. And she just continued and got to the very last. And she stopped for whatever reason at 10. We used to take it up to 12, but she stopped at 10. So it was everything from up to 90, right? 10 times 9. And she waited for the class to stop laughing. And once they did, she said to one child in particular, what were you laughing about? And the child said, well, you screwed up on the first one. And then the whole class again roared in laughter. And she waited for the laughter to die down. And she said, I did that on purpose because I wanted to tell you the world that you're getting ready to go into. Because it doesn't matter if you do everything right? I just did 1 through 10, right? 9 of them were perfect. In fact, they were the more difficult, right, of all of them. The easiest of all of them, I got wrong. But you don't remember the 9 that I got right. Nobody said, hey, you only missed 1. No, what happens is, and this is the world that we live in, it doesn't matter how long you do everything perfectly. What matters is the one time you don't. And the lesson, I think, I don't know whether or not the classroom got it, but I certainly did. The takeaway from this is that really is the society that we live in. It doesn't much matter how long you do everything perfect, right? Our society is waiting for that one time that you don't do it right. And they're ready to pounce on you, and they're ready to laugh at you, and they're ready to scorn you, and they're ready to call you a junkie and a drunk and anything else, right? They're ready to pass judgment. And this is a reality for those of us who are in recovery. We talk every day about what it means to be in recovery. And one of the things that comes up time and time again, and I don't think too many people will argue this point with me, there's probably 1 or 2, but for the most part, I don't think anyone's going to argue the fact that, making missteps, and relapsing from time to time is part of recovery, right? It is pretty much considered a part of the process. But boy, when it happens, especially outside of the group setting, and I don't mean just the lifeboat, I mean any group setting, right? Outside of that kind of a situation, society's going to pounce on you. They are. They're going to let you know it, right? Boy, he screwed up. He drank again last night. No one's going to say 7.5 years he had sober. If they mention that, it's not going to be to pat the person on the back. They're going to talk about how they blew that 7.5 years, right? You just blew 7.5 years of sobriety. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You spent 7.5 years without drinking or doing anything wrong. You didn't blow that time. You made a mistake on one day. And it's really funny how, we all talk about living one day at a time, right? The only day that matters is the one that you're on. Until, however, you make a mistake on that day. right? And everything changes. Now, all of a sudden, it's not just that one day, is it? No, now you blew everything. All of that success that you had up to that point, well, that's gone, right? That's down the tubes. We really got to guard ourselves against this kind of mentality, because we've heard people say it on the lifeboat. And I've said it to people. Someone will call me and say, you know what, Tommy, I'm thinking of using. And one of my first go-tos is, you really want to throw away 5 years of sobriety right now for this? They're not throwing away 5 years of sobriety. They're not. It's an easy term to say, and it makes people, it brings out the desired effect very often. But the truth of the matter is, all that is blowing one day. And if we sort of stick to that attitude and we live our life one day at a time, we're always more successful. One of the things that we need to guard ourselves against in recovery is not just judging other people, right? Everybody knows that judging other people isn't right. I don't care if you believe in God or if you don't. And I don't care which God you believe in or what holy book you read. There's not one that doesn't talk about how judging other people is wrong, right? Judge not lest ye be judged. You don't want to remove the plank out of someone's eye, the splinter, the plank in your eye versus the splinter in someone else's. This is a recurring theme that continues to come up again and again and again. Hello. Good to see you. That's the birthday girl. Happy birthday. So this is one of those recurring themes that comes up. Obviously, we know that judging people is a bad idea, right? Across the board. One of the things that we don't talk about often enough is judging ourselves. And I think that as a person becomes sober, the hardest judgment tends to be inward. One of the things that I have found, and it doesn't have to have anything to do with sobriety. Once a person gets sober, they tend to judge themselves in everything that they do harshly. Honestly, it's very rare that you find somebody in sobriety who's in recovery who ever seems to be happy with what they're doing. They always tend to tear themselves down, and this is a habit, I think, that is dangerous for us in recovery. When you start judging yourself, nothing good ever comes from it. Now, I don't mean that you should give yourself a pass in everything you do. If your performance stinks at whatever you're doing, then you need to up your game. But I think perspective is probably a pretty important thing yet again, because so often the judgment that comes from within is so much harsher than the judgment that comes from other people. And what's funny is that as I'm talking about judgment, my bobbleheaded partner is doing this one. However, I think it was not last night, it was the night before. I got a text message from my bobbleheaded partner who said, "Man, I just blew that live feed." So it was all over the place, man. I hate it when I do that. And then I went and watched it. I didn't get that vibe at all. And if someone was going to judge him harshly on that, realistically, it probably would be me. I mean, because the two of us do this, right? This is what we do, all of the time, right? One of us is live here 365 days a year. And oftentimes, even more than once in a day. So we spend a lot of time doing this. If he's got a bad day, I'm not going to, tell him he sucks, but I would more than likely, say, yeah, he did seem a little out there, but it's just not the vibe I got after watching it. And it was all of these things sort of started to pile up, the meme about the teacher and my partner sort of judging himself on one of the live feeds. And then last night, I reached out and I said to him, he asked how I was doing. And I said, I'm not done. I'm getting close. He said, you know what, take one more night, and try to get it wrapped up and I'll cover it. I said, are you sure? And he said, well, maybe I can make up for the night before. So even after a full 24 hours, right, that judgment was still fresh in his mind. He was still passing judgment on his performance. And I think, this is something that comes up really often. It really is rare that you come across somebody in recovery who says, boy, you know what? I did a great job on that. I nailed that. I think that as you come out of the process of years of abusing drugs and alcohol, it changes how you view yourself, right? It really does. And you no longer view yourself realistically. I think that there is a tint to the glasses that we look at ourselves through once we get sober. And I think that, there's the harsh reality of the fact that we're not really happy with how we had spent our time. We'll use me as an example again. I spent, 20 or 30 years of my life, well, between 20 and 30 years of my life, abusing drugs. So once I got sober, the majority of my life, I could not call a success. The majority of my life I could call nothing but a failure. Now, there were things that I did in there that were pretty good, but it tends to be taken in totality, right? You take the entire total of my life, and I viewed it, as a failure up to that point. And I don't think I'm being too harsh on myself. It really was a failure. Obviously, my story, and where I ended up before I started the lifeboat. You can't really do worse than end up in a federal institution. That's about as bad as you're going to do. So I think it's a pretty realistic thing to say, yeah, I failed pretty bad on the first half of my life. The trouble becomes as you start to move forward. It's hard to look at the things that you do now without that residue, without that residual effect from the first half of your life. And I was obviously, as I said, spent the last 5 days putting down a floor. And I recently went and picked my mom up at the airport, and I mean recently, right? It was like the last 30 minutes or so. And as she came in the house, the first thing I did was point out 4 places on the floor that, this isn't quite right. And if you notice over here, and my mother's response was, what are you talking about? Right? What she was seeing was a very successful floor. What I was seeing was the mistakes that I made in it. The small screw ups along the way. Hold on one second. I'm sorry, this one had to be touched. Tommy, just curious. People say alcohol withdrawals can kill you. But what about people locked up? They detox without meds? Here's the thing. Not only can alcohol withdrawal kill you, it is the second leading cause of death for people incarcerated. The first being suicide. The second is dying from acute alcohol withdrawal. And before everybody freaks out and talks about how awful the system is, and make no mistake, the system is awful, more often than not, it's because the people who come in are dishonest at their time of being going through the admittance process. You have to tell them exactly what's going on in your life. And very often someone will get arrested, and you sit down with a nurse or a practitioner who asks you questions. And there's a certain level of paranoia. You sit down and they go, what drugs are you doing? How much are you drinking? And, the incarcerated person goes, oh man, anything I say can and will be used against me in a court of law. I'm not going to tell these people I'm drinking 2/5 a day, right? I'm going to end up having a judge, so that kind of paranoia, unfortunately, causes people to be less than honest. And very oftentimes that means that they're going to end up, dead. If a person goes in and they tell them honestly, yeah, you know what, I drink 2/5 of bourbon a day, they're going to put you on an alcohol detox protocol. And just to be really honest, I used to lie and tell them that I drank too much. And I also told them that I took a lot of benzodiazepines because I knew I was going to get very, very sick from not having heroin. And if I got put onto the alcohol and benzo detox protocol, they're going to give you benzos. They're going to give you a pretty healthy dose of Ativan to start with. And then it tapers down to where they're giving you smaller amounts of that. Then they go to Valium, then they go to Librium, and they just, sort of take you off. And it would give you about the first 7 days in there having some kind of a relief from the withdrawals. But no, they don't just throw people in a room and let them die. And make no mistake, people, alcohol withdrawal can kill you. Now, this doesn't mean for people who are drinking 6 beers a day, right? There are alcoholics who can quit cold turkey. It's for people who have reached a certain level of saturation where the amount of alcohol that they're taking in has the body in a different type of alcohol dependence, right? There are as many different kinds of alcoholics as you could possibly imagine, right? People who are addicted to alcohol. There are people who drink 2 24-ounce beers a day, but they've been doing it for 30 years. They can't go without those. They're probably going to get the shakes, right? They're going to go through some symptoms of acute alcohol withdrawal. It's not going to be the same as someone that's drinking a fifth of spirits. Somebody that's drinking 32 shots of hard liquor a day. Now you're talking about the level of withdrawal that can get you dead. You ever drink too much and you get a hangover? That's really all it is your body is going into alcohol withdrawal. That's what a hangover is. And for people who get to that level of intoxication routinely, very often the next day, you've heard the jokes. So I'm just going to have the hair of the dog that bit me or whatever. Well, there are, plenty of people in alcohol addiction who, they take the tail, the legs, a decent amount of the dog that bit them and just start the process again in the morning, drinking to avoid the hangover. And I watched a guy who was incarcerated, and he told me that he had been drinking every morning to avoid a hangover for about 15 years. This was a guy that absolutely had to be put on a protocol to get. And the funny thing is, well, not funny, but funny because it's what we're talking about. When he came in, he lied. The woman said, you obviously drink a lot. I can see that you're intoxicated now. And he said, yeah, this is a rare thing for me. And when they put him in my cell, he was on his second day. And I said to him, boy, you better ring the front desk and tell them what's going on or you're going to die. They got a panic button in there. And basically talked him into, to telling him the truth because it was getting grim. Please do. That might help.
Yeah. Hey guys, good to see you guys. Yeah, I would add to that, phenobarbital is most likely the medicine they're going to give you for withdrawal. And it doesn't work that well for withdrawal because it's a seizure medicine. Okay. That happens if you go to the hospital, guys. They are so timid of giving they will not give you any kind of MAT at all. Medical assisted treatment is what I'm trying to say. I'm used to using the abbreviations, but when I first got help, and a lot of you guys already know my story, so I'm not going to get deep in it. But when I did finally get help, that's the first thing they gave me was phenobarbital. And the reason why is because I told them that I was drinking and I wasn't. But I knew that would, because phenobarbital was initially developed for high blood pressure. That's what that drug was for at the beginning. But just know that, guys, and if you guys get into treatment, just kind of know those are the steps. And as much, when Tommy talks about it, it's prison, right? But I hate to say it like this, but prison and like a mental hospital or whatever, they're very similar in many ways. So just kind of keep that in mind. Don't be afraid to go get help. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that, just understand that. And if you've got insurance, pay attention to the person that's trying to do your intake and go off their keywords because you'll do better for yourself. I don't ever encourage anybody to lie, but I ended up having to so I could get into rehab. For the very reason Tommy's talking about this, because you can die from alcohol withdrawal and you won't from opiate withdrawal. So the insurance doesn't want to cover it. So just kind of understand that. And I would encourage anybody to understand their insurance. That's key for anything that we're doing here. You have to really pay attention to that. There's grants out there you can get for assisted treatment, medicated assisted treatments. There's all these things, right? But Yeah. So I just want to add that real quick.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Niall says, you are right. Insofar as many short to medium term alcoholics can suffer a few days of the shakes and be fine, but extreme alcoholics can go into seizures within 6 hours. And yeah, that's absolutely a fact. And you can the DTs or the delirium tremens that start to set in at about hour 6 to 9, right? That can kill you. It absolutely can. And I'm surprised that they were still using the phenobarbital out there. In here in Nevada, they've gone straight benzo. If someone is going in and they're suffering from alcohol withdrawal, their protocol is lorazepam, which is Ativan, and they'll give you about 2 milligrams of that every 6 hours for the first 3 days, and then they go to Valium, 5 milligrams, and then from that they go to Librium, and then that's the end of it. And then they give you some stuff. What's that? Yeah, yeah, yeah. It may still be. I mean, I don't know that it's. This is the only thing that I can speak to in terms of that is going to be here in Nevada, because prior to getting to this part of the country, I didn't run afoul of the law. I mean nothing serious anyway. But here, I definitely know a decent amount about the intake process. Yeah, that's their protocol. Well, and if you think about it logically, it's the best possible bet. Phenobarbital, any barbiturate is going to it's going to have the effect that they want it to. But benzos and alcohol, I mean, for all intents and purposes, are exactly the same in the brain. That's why the people who are in a full blown benzo addiction will also go into DTs. I mean, if you see somebody who's addicted to benzodiazepines trying to go cold turkey, you wouldn't know that they weren't an alcoholic trying to go cold turkey. The symptoms are identical.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I had my mic turned off there for a couple seconds, guys. Sorry. Just so you don't put a bunch of stuff in the chat. Thanks for letting us know, though. I do. It's really interesting to understand that, because I think it's beneficial to anybody that's in recovery to understand the process, because from state to state it can differ. And understanding the process even actually comes back to the whole judgmental thing, because it helps you understand where people are in society, because that's what they're doing. They are basically, saying that narrative, whatever you're dealing with in your hospital or your treatment center. That's definitely the narrative that's coming from your local governments, probably, and state.
I want to just clarify when because I saw a comment from Niall. Niall said that he disagrees a little about the comparison between like a psych ward and prison. I think the only thing that Mark was saying is that I don't think he was saying that the two of them are going to treat you the same way. I think what he's saying is that the protocols for how they're going to treat the person is similar. In other words, if you get incarcerated and you're very honest with the person as soon as you get there, the protocol that they give you is going to be the same as if you're really honest with somebody at a hospital. I think that was the reference. I don't think he was saying that.
I guess I should have clarified also, because, I mean, I get that for sure. I mean, I would actually agree with him. And what I'm saying, to clarify what I was saying, that I'm talking about like a mental institution. I'm not talking about rehab. There's a clear difference when you go in those two different facilities. So when I first got help, I went to a rehab center and they kicked me out because my insurance wouldn't pay for it. So I ended up at my local hospital on the psych ward. So when you're up there, they're treating you different than what they would anywhere else, because you're there for a mental issue, not necessarily a rehab, and that's why they wouldn't give you any kind of medicated assisted treatment. They just wouldn't. And that's why you get the phenobarbital, and it does have a calming effect, but it's not enough to do anything really for right. Anybody that's in full withdrawal. It's not going to help much. That's just my opinion. So
yeah. Well, what's funny is if you go into if you're incarcerated and you just tell them very honestly, the only thing that I do is opiates. They have what is called the opiate withdrawal protocol. And the funniest thing is that from someone that has spent a life doing the wrong thing, each pill that they give you in that protocol is supposed to look like something that's actually going to do well for you. I mean, honestly, they give you a little blue pill that looks exactly like a 10 milligram Valium. It's just an Imodium AD. They give you like they have figured out for the psychiatric sort of the placebo effect. They give you all of these pills that look like in one way or another they may have, but all they're giving you is a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory and something for upset stomach and then an anti-diarrhea medicine. But there's nothing in there to actually combat any of the withdrawal sickness. I think they're fully aware of the fact that you're going to go through a really bad time, and they don't much care. And I understand. I really do. That society, they're coming around a little bit, but society's view on drug addiction is, especially if you wind up incarcerated, you end up in there's not a whole lot of compassion, and I get it. I do. I don't think it's the right thing, but I do understand where they're coming from. But I think that, and this is a rabbit hole we could go down for 16 days. But I think that they really need to start becoming more compassionate long before you get arrested at that door, right? By the time you're entering into that jail facility, the ship has already hit the iceberg. The intervention needs to happen long before that. But that's a topic for another day. By the way, just real briefly, and boy, oh boy, because we know how this one ends every single time I say it. But, Mark was talking about, if you say to the insurance companies that the issue you have is with alcohol, they're more likely to treat you because you can perish. If he said, know your insurance. You're always going to get treated better if they think that there's a chance that you're going to pass away. One of the reasons that the topic of whether or not this can be considered a disease, where this really became an issue long ago, people, was that until it was categorized as such, insurance companies didn't want to have anything to do with it. So if you wanted to send somebody to a rehabilitation center, it was on your own dime. There was nobody that was stepping in to do anything of any kind of assistance from insurance companies at all. Then once it started to be diagnosed as, and again, you don't have to agree or disagree, it doesn't matter, that's not what we're talking about tonight, but that was one of the reasons that it became sort of an issue, was so that insurance companies would have to then step in and actually start taking care of people and admitting that this was a medical condition that needed to be treated, which I think goes a long way to helping as far as that goes. Now, briefly back to Judgement. There was a great comment back there from Niall a while ago, and I wish I had it here with me. These things travel up very quickly, but he was talking about one of the reasons that we judge ourselves is because we never really can fully forgive ourselves for the lost potential. I'm paraphrasing what he said. He did a much more eloquent job, as he does more often than not. He did a more eloquent job than I just did. But what he was basically saying is that that's one of the reasons, as we come out of our addiction, that we never quite look at ourselves objectively from that point on. We hold a grudge, for lack of a better way to put it. We basically hold a grudge against ourselves for the times that we spent, the time wasted, of our lives that we spent wasted, so to speak. And I think that there's probably something to that. But so across the board, people, I think we really need to look at the whole being judgmental thing. We have to guard against being too harsh judging ourselves, and we most assuredly don't want to be judging others. It almost astounds me, how often I get a text. I'm sorry. I think that addiction is. Oh yeah, I definitely don't want to get down that rabbit hole. But I think it astounds me just how often I'll get an email from somebody who will basically have a comment about someone on the boat. and they will say something along the lines of, so-and-so said this the other night, or so-and-so said that the other night. I really think that they were drinking, or I really think that they were high. And number one, whether they are or aren't, is neither here nor there. But the fact that, we do this, we read people's comments, right? We're not looking at anybody. So to make that kind of a call is probably not such a great thing. And it's judgmental, right? I mean, you're sitting and judging, fellow crew members on the boat for things that they may or may not have done. And it comes up often. It comes up more often than I would like to admit, honestly. And I think that we need to guard ourselves against that, especially when, people, what we do here is group therapy. I mean, we can church it up and we can, but more than anything else, this is not a YouTube channel as much as it is a group of people who get together and do group therapy on a daily basis. And judging one another in group is probably not such a great idea.
Yeah, there's a difference between judging and being honest also. And you can hear me, can't you, Tommy?
Yeah.
Do I sound okay? I mean, is that...
You sound...
Okay.
Yeah, you sound perfect.
All right. But yeah, I just wanted to, throw that in there because we are oftentimes way more judgmental on ourselves. And case in point, and I appreciate Tommy saying that about the live feed the other night. I really did feel like, I really didn't do a really good job with it because and it was probably because I felt rushed, right? But that's not the point here. The point here is I was extremely hard on myself. And there's something to be said for that too, because it does show that we care. And it doesn't mean that we need to dwell on it. And the biggest point I got from what he said was that it was a day later and I was still on it. You know what I mean? That means to me, I didn't even realize I'd done that until you said that. And so that means to me that it was in my head still. And you see what I'm getting at with that? That's something that even though it's creeping in slow, doesn't mean that it ain't there. And that's one of the biggest reasons why we're probably talking about this, because it can lead you start judging yourself again. What's it lead to? Guilt, all these other emotions and stuff, right? So, and it's so hard to give yourself a break, especially when you know that you've affected your family, your friends, all those things. And it's hard to get yourself out there and be able to say, hey, I'm doing good now. I'm doing all right. I'm doing all this. I'm doing that. Because at some level you feel like you're maybe gloating. It's probably too strong of a word there, but at that level is what I'm trying to say. I
think you nailed it. I think you nailed something there that, and I think that this is one of the things that comes up in everybody's mind, whether they think about it consciously or unconsciously. If you start beating your chest and you start talking about, I'm super proud of people on this boat, right? I'm proud of everybody on this boat. But there are people, I think when you start feeling proud of yourself, you get this feeling as if, well, you know what, if I had done everything right from the beginning, I wouldn't have had to get sober. So I'm patting myself on the back for not doing something stupid, right? And that's an attitude that I think society has put on us. You know what I mean? If you say to somebody, hey, you know what, I've been sober for a year and a half. Usually the attitude that you get from people is, well, you never should have been addicted in the first place, right? Why should I congratulate you for getting sober when you should have been sober to start with, right? You're celebrating the fact that you're no longer a drug addict. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm celebrating, right? For real. And if the average person, air quotes, normal person, had any idea what a difficult thing it is to stop once you have hit that addiction phase, once you get to that point, the ability to put it down. This is why, the most successful people in the world, no matter what it is that they do, if they're sober, when they're asked, what's your proudest, accomplishment? I bring up Elton John a lot. This guy's won every award in the world, right? He's won Grammys, Emmys, right? He's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, everything. And when they interviewed him and said, what are you most proud of? He was like, oh, getting sober, hands down. right? Everything else that this man has done in his life, right? No, hands down. I'm more proud. Eric Clapton, same thing. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, one of the greatest guitarists that ever lived. And when they said to him, your proudest moment, he said, "Oh yeah, getting off heroin." There was nothing in my life that I did that was more difficult. And these are some people that really have done a great deal in their life. But I think that you lose sight sometimes of just what a damn fine thing it is, to be able to say, yeah, I did that. And you've heard me yell at Alan Ballantyne. You've heard me, lovingly, but you can't get Alan to pat himself on the back. You can't get Alan to take a bow. The man lost a third of his body weight, right? He's been sober now, closing in on 2 years. The guy's hitting it out of the park. He's every goal that he has set, he has accomplished. And he's just, every time he hits a new plateau, he sets the bar higher and continues to do it. And I gotta be Alan's cheerleader, because he gets uncomfortable anytime I ask him to take a bow. Well, we, from day one, people, from the first show that I ever did, right? The idea has always been at the Lifeboat to own your past and celebrate your victories. Have a place where you can pump your fist in the air and pound on your chest and say, I did that. And not have anyone say, well, you should have been living like that anyway. Well, you know what, that bird's flown, right? Obviously I wasn't living like that, right? I made the mistakes, whatever, I was there. Now I'm talking about overcoming that. And that is something to absolutely be proud of. You know what? I saw a comment from Niall I love. Niall said, man, what a pleasure it is to be with you. I'm sorry I've missed a few shows. I love this place. You know what, Niall? This place isn't the same when you're not here, but if it makes you feel better, I've missed a few shows myself.
Yeah, I would say the same thing to Niall. We love you in there in the chat, man. And here's the thing. Did you notice how we all handled disagreeing at some level? People need to really grab a hold of what just happened. I can take criticism. Niall can take criticism. Tommy can take some criticism. We're all learning from each other. And that's my point right there. And it was put in there in a respectful way. That's just what adults do. So don't be afraid to speak your mind in that chat. Okay? Yeah. And that's kind of what I was saying. So thank you, Niall, for being that person, honestly.
Yeah. No, and something, there's really is something to be said for for the fact that, number one, you don't have to agree with everything that we say. You don't. In fact, you all have a right to tell us that you disagree with us at any time. I think that that's important. And Niall is always been one to tell us if there's something that he disagrees with, but doing it in a respectful way, it really does set us apart from everybody else. I don't know how many times I've said, people who beat addiction are not as good as other people. They tend to be better than other people. And this is one of the things that, honestly, that you can look at. Go to any other channel. Seriously, go to any other channel and try to find people who disagree and nicely explain their points, and say, you know what, I understand where you're going with that. This is why every once in a while, when it doesn't go well like that, it sticks out like Wednesday in the middle of the week, right? And you've all seen occasions on here where one of us will clash with somebody in the comment section. We don't have to agree with one another. We don't. We just have to make our points politely. If I disagree with something that you said, it doesn't make you a dirtbag, right? And if you disagree with something I said, it doesn't make me a bad person. So that the whole we disagree, now I'm going to be mean to you attitude. It falls under Rule 4, right? We only got 4 rules. It's not that hard. There's only 4 of them. But no, I love the fact that that we can have that kind of discourse in here. I really do. And I love the fact whenever we can use the things that happen within the family as kind of a learning thing. It is a good thing that you care enough about the show that you feel like you want to put out your best work. But it is you're always going to be harder on yourself than the rest of the world is going to be. And something, people, I think that that's normal. It's just that we got to guard that it doesn't become overwhelming. And I think it's cool that that you said, I didn't even realize I was doing it on day 2. There's nothing wrong with saying that was not my best work, regardless of what it is you're talking about. However, if you're wrong, you know what I mean? There are times that we judge ourselves, like I said, half an hour, 40 minutes ago, I'm pointing out the 4 mistakes on this floor. This house is huge, right? I mean, I just put floors in 5 rooms. And I'm like, we see the gap here? That gap ought to be a 16th of an inch. And it's about, half a 32nd bigger than that. You know what? I mean, everybody does. We all do it. But people in recovery do it more. We tend to judge ourselves very, very harshly. And I think the reason is, as we said, society doesn't want to give you credit for getting sober. Society wants to give you crap for the fact that you had to get sober. Well, you know what? Once that bird's flown, let's forget about that and get to the matter at hand, which is how you're going to live the rest of your life. And if you're living it right, we're here to pump our fists in the air and tell you you're doing a great job without apology, right? Brandon, proud of you, brother. Brandon's still fighting the good fight. Super proud of you. The rest of the world, I don't know how they feel, Brandon, but here, we love you, brother. So impressed with what you're doing every single day, hitting it out of the park. And that goes to all of you. It really does. I believe that 7th Son and Ms. V are on the same day. Cruising in on almost a half a year, I think. Right? So it's over 5 months, I think. But there's so many people here doing it right. There should be no shame whatsoever in taking a bow for being sober. That is a good thing.
Yeah, we should be screaming that from the rooftops, man.
I agree with you, man. And I absolutely agree with you.
And so like we've been talking, so oftentimes we don't feel like we should be able to do that, but we should, and it's not just for yourself either. If another person that's in recovery comes across somebody that's not afraid to point out when they've done something good as far as a recovery or whatever else goes, they're going to learn from that. They're going to say, hey, I can do that too. It's okay to feel good about what I've done. And we,
good point.
We really do fall into, pitfalls a lot of the time when it comes to just complimenting ourselves. I guess at some level, I'm not sure if you agree with this or not, but society kind of has molded that into all of us some level. We're afraid to say, hey, I done a good job, because then, we're going to be like egotistical or narcissists, or always, we start getting labeled, is what I'm trying to say. And we got to push back against that. The only way that it ever changes is if we come out here and practice what we preach. Be what we're saying we are. And, and let me tell you guys, it's not easy. I don't think me and Tommy have ever once said recovery is easy. Matter of fact, we're probably saying the opposite. And it just...
No question.
It really is one of those things. But it's like this, guys. It's one of the most rewarding things you can do. I used to say this about my kids. Kids are the hardest and the best thing that will ever happen to a person. All at the same time. All at the same time. And recovery is kind of the same way. We want to be there, but we don't want to be there.
Yeah.
If we could go back in time, obviously the majority of us would say, no, I ain't doing that. If, and I know I don't want people to dwell on this. I really don't like even saying it like this, but if you're going to think back and you would say to yourself, would I change it? Would I change that if I could? And it forces you to look inward. And for most people, they're going to say, yeah, I would have made a different decision. Hindsight's 20/20. But at the same time, listen, guys, recognize when you're doing good, because we always focus when we're doing bad. And that's, I guess that's just kind of what the whole point is, doing any of it.
Yeah. It's really funny. I had a very long talk with somebody about this the other day, and something, the damage that I did to the people that I cared about, the people that I loved, and putting my dad through what I put him through while he was alive, and all of that aside, that, that's something that you just live with for the rest of your life. Like Niall just said, getting sober means facing your demons. And the thing is, for the rest of your life, they walk with you side by side. And there's really a lot of truth to that. You know what I mean? I think that you conquer them, but they don't leave, and that's, you get good at living with, with the things that you've done. Again, this isn't easy. It's never going to be that, oh, that's over. Thank God that's gone. Huh? You just get good at living with what you have to. But if I could go back and do it all over again, even with that being said, I think this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
I really do. And all of the things that have come from that, I've met the greatest people in the world. And I really feel like, the fact that after 30 years of doing the amount of drugs that I did, either of us, the fact that we can still carry on a conversation and do it in front of a camera, probably means that this is where we were supposed to be. And this is what we're supposed to be doing. So, but any way you shake it, it's from here forward one way or the other, right?
Yeah, no, and it's exactly right. And like I said, when you look back on your life, you want to try to do it for benefiting yourself. You don't want to catch yourself just, walking around self-loathing and just feeling sorry for yourself and all that, right? Because that's where it leads. And then it leads to all the bad stuff that we talk about. And I think that out of all the things in my life, again, other than my family, my wife and my kids and my, the people that are really close to me, this is one of the things I'm most proud of. And, and I don't want this to come across wrong either. I've got a Space Weather channel that's almost 50,000 subscribers, right? I've experienced a little bit of success on that. I don't monetize the channel. I'm not talking monetary. I'm just talking, doing what I do. I'm proud of that too, but I would drop that channel right now if I could get every one of those people over here. And I'm not just saying that, and I love Space Weather. So and I say that just to let you guys know how important this stuff is to me and Tommy. And, I can't tell you that when your kids start coming up to you, hey, I caught your show last night. Don't that feel awesome? I mean, I know your daughter does that for you sometimes, I'm sure. So when your kids actually come up to you and say, hey, I watched your show and I really stayed the whole hour. How often do you get that from your kids? I can't get my kids to sit on the couch for an hour. I mean, it really is like that. You know what I mean? So when they choose, because I don't ever ask people. I might say, hey, I'm doing a show tonight, and I'll leave it at that. I don't say, please, pretty please come watch my show. It ain't nothing like that. It's more like, hey, I'm doing this. This is the topic tonight. I'll be doing a live stream if you guys want to check it out. You know where I'll be. So, but again, for somebody that has a child that doesn't live with you anymore, like, because they're adults, we all know how adult life can get very, very busy, right? So the fact that they took the time to do that makes me feel really, really proud about what we're doing. Because I know at that point, because I didn't ask for it. I didn't ask for that. But it was given to me. Right? So that it's deserved when that happens. I mean, if you're having to ask for accolades and stuff like that, is it really deserved? Probably not. And every situation is different. But I do feel very proud about what we're doing here. And I really would. I would drop everything on my other channel if I could. If I had to choose, definitely this would be where I would be. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, this channel's making a difference, and it's, you people and the way that you treat everyone who shows up here. There's, and again, I sit and I talk about how, as addicts, we're bad at not judging ourselves, and we're bad at taking praise and all of the things that I just said. But I will say, there's not a doubt in my mind that what we're doing here is important. I'm sorry. Yeah, what we're doing here is important, and yeah, there's not a day that goes by that I don't take incredible pride in what this has turned into.
Right.
Admittedly, I think that, and we've said it many times, it's took on a life of its own. But neither of us are dumb enough to think that this would be here if it wasn't for the two of us. So we'll take that. But you people have really made this blossom into something amazing. We'll take a bow for the concept. But
for sure.
I think all of you should take a bow for what you've created here with the lifeboat, because it really is doing amazing things. The number of people that are really looking at life differently and really, on a daily basis, trying to be the best that they can be. That's good stuff. It really is. And,
I can tell you this, one of the most, just to point this out again one more time, that my personal doctor, I didn't ask. He just said, "Hey, I really like what you're doing over there." And we just had that interview with him. He said it to me. At that point, yes, he got close with us and stuff in group. But what I'm trying to say is that he didn't have to. He didn't have to say that. You know what I mean? He's my outpatient doctor, is where I get my medicated assisted treatment. You don't expect that stuff to come from there. And then when it gets talked about and they say, "I really like what you're doing. Yes, I'll do an interview with you." I mean, that right there is just like crazy to me. It was hard for me to like wrap my brain around what was happening, and that, I always knew we're doing really good things here, but when it gets validated by somebody like that, in my mind, it helps me be able to do exactly what we're talking about here. Be able to say, "Hey, I'm doing good. I'm doing good." And
it was nice to hear him say he'd like to come back too. That was a great end.
Yes.
He really made my day. I thought that was pretty cool stuff.
Yep, for sure.
But I'll tell you something, people. All joking aside, I've missed you guys. I'm glad that I'm back here, sitting in front of the camera, and I look forward to seeing you all at the same bat time, same bat channel tomorrow night, right here on the lifeboat. Do believe we're at the top of the hour. Thanks again, Mark, for giving me 2 days to work on the floors. My hands, people, are, believe it or not, that is pretty close to normal size. They're still a little swollen, but
hey, what they say about a man size of a man's hands. We'll just leave it at that.
That they make for very large gloves.
Yep.
So, but we will be back here tomorrow night, people. Same bat time, same bat channel. Between now and then, keep doing what you're doing, which is reaching out there and trying to save people, because you people are doing it. And lest you think that anything's changed, this is a cat in a basket. All right, everybody. Good night. All righty. That cat, you would think that the cat stays in that basket all day. But really, when I put the captain's hat on, she comes and gets in the basket.
Dude, I just ran the wrong outro. I ran My Freaking Wages World. Yeah, check it out at the end of the live stream later on. It's there. Daggone it. I use the same OBS screen for both streams, and yeah, I just hit the wrong scene. Stupid.